The Ancient and Shining Ones, Chapter 3. The Importance of Worship to Humankind. From the very beginning of humankind's history, worship has been an important part of our species' development and spiritual growth. We have always worshipped and revered tangible objects as symbols of the infinite, unknowable Creator. The Christians, although originally borrowing heavily from the symbols and symbolic rituals of the ancient pagan mysteries, have tried to switch from these symbols to totally abstract ideas, without much success, I must say. Humankind is a species that relies upon its physical senses to survive in this world, and as a method of comparison to concepts of an invisible spiritual nature. Even the visions of the highly spiritual evolved human are experienced and described as if perceived by physical senses of sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. It is the only way in which we can begin to understand and assimilate spiritual experiences, let alone share those experiences with others. So, to help humans who seldom or never activated their visualization processes, the ancient spiritual leaders, most often the priests and priestesses, devised concrete visual symbols to aid in the worship of the divine. The first symbols were paintings on the walls of sacred caves and little clay and mammoth ivory Paleolithic figures such as the Venus of Lespugue, France, carved about 24,000 BC. The initiates of ancient beliefs warned their followers that an image was not a reality. They spoke of images as visual symbols of subjective ideas. The images of the gods were not intended to be worshipped. They were to be regarded simply as visual reminders of certain aspects of spiritual, invisible, divine principles. Unfortunately, many people did not or could not understand this form of abstract reasoning. Their spiritual growth had not evolved to the point where they could comprehend or differentiate between the idea of a physically formed God and an abstract archetype. One thing is apparent throughout all of humankind's history of worship. We do not seem to be able to live in our universe without some belief in a supreme being, a creator of logic and power, however remote. Complete understanding of that deity is not required, for we see the evidence of creation all about us. As Socrates said, he did not know what God was, but he knew what he was not. The sad part of humankind's search for God as creator, is that so many will fervently worship in their own sanctuaries, in their own particular way, but will criticize and try to destroy the way others worship. If these people would only read the mythologies of this world with an open mind, they would find that all of the mythological motifs are revered in one way or another by all peoples of this planet. In the deepest sense, humankind needs to acknowledge that the basis of all spiritual belief comes from the same source. In fact, the very basis of human development and evolution comes from an acknowledgement in some way of that source. Any group of humans that has denounced an active belief in the source has suffered a loss of commitment to and cohesion of their social structure. And when belief becomes religion with a mere priestly function, truth is lost. Basically, there are two major types of religion. The type that is called paganism or polytheism, or belief in a plurality of gods. The other type is monotheism, or belief there is only one God. Three major religions have come out of the Middle East. All are monotheistic. Two of these have a history of aggressive tendencies toward the rest of the world that worship differently, as well as toward each other. Polytheistic religions tend to be more open-minded about spiritual seeking by the individual. C.G. Jung writes that the human psyche has within itself all the images that are the basis for creating a myth. He states that these images reside within a collective unconscious. Jung goes on to clarify the difference between the collective unconscious and the subconscious. The subconscious, he writes, is the depository of each person's experiences, even if not remembered. The collective unconscious is a collection of archaic or primordial universal images that have existed since the first humans and are the same within each person regardless of race or belief or religious belief. The archetype behind any religious idea has a specific energy. It does not lose any of this energy if the human mind ignores it. The power may lie dormant, but certainly does not cease to exist. No more than does a disbelief in the Creator make it become non-existent. It is also wise to note that all archetypes have positive, favorable aspects and negative, unfavorable aspects. It is up to each individual to choose to follow and emulate the positive aspects of any archetype in whatever form of religion one professes. Unfortunately, especially in the Western world, religion has too often been a means of oppression instead of a guide to better living. Churches gain power and status by supporting the powerful. Examples of this can be seen in the historical support of the churches for cruel monarchies and dictators. If the churches would concentrate on helping people to understand and experience spiritual growth, wars would greatly diminish and the lives of the average people would improve considerably. Plato in Phaedrus wrote that not one person who decided in his youth to hold the opinion that there were no gods ever came to the end of his life with that conviction. Deep down within the soul, humankind knows there is a supreme creator. It is this instinct that compels us to acknowledge in a multitude of ways the existence of that being. It is an instinct within the collective unconscious of us all and cannot be excised. It is our desire to be spiritually complete that draws us to seek the source. And we will seek through thousands of spiritual pathways until we find the one that brings us closest to reuniting with that being. Humankind can no more give up worship of the Supreme Creator than we can give up breathing. It is our destiny, the primitive instinct that draws us on toward the goal of perfection within the light.